Hey everyone, welcome to Remap. My name is Jared, and today we're going to be taking a look at Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order by Respawn Entertainment. Now, I know the game's been out for a little while, but I was excited to finally play through it on the Xbox Series X when the next gen patch recently dropped. You know, I wanted my 60 FPS. It's unfortunately, I'm years behind, all the PC players. But as a console player, it's finally got to the point where, these big AAA releases, like, man, I gotta have 60 FPS all the time. I'm playing some last gen games and I see they're 30 and I'm just like, this is painful. And, PC players are listening to this going, what is this, man, 12? I'm well aware. But anyway, as always, I'll be giving my spoiler-free review first. And just as a reminder, these are my opinions and mine alone. But jumping right into it, visually, the game looked really good. I mean, it's got that classic Unreal Engine look with the characters and environments. But the set pieces and especially a lot of the enemies, they look great. The Respawn knew they weren't reinventing the wheel. They looked at it and said, hey, we know what a stormtrooper or what a Star Wars planet like Kashyyyk should look like, and they faithfully represented what Star Wars is supposed to look like. They're not reinventing the wheel, as I said. But I was a bit disappointed by the next gen update, both visually and performance-wise, because I experienced a ton of frame drops, and there's no reason that hardware like this, the Xbox Series X, should be experiencing frame drops. I should be able to expect a consistent 60 FPS, and I don't understand why I wouldn't be getting that. And there's a number of bugs, most of which were visual, that did hamper the immersion of the game. But getting to what's most important, the gameplay. And I have a lot to say about this, because there's moments in the game where I string some combos together, using the force powers, throwing people around, just annihilating all the enemies. And I get that feeling, the cliche, the feeling of being a Jedi. It's that grounded feeling of you're using your lightsaber, you're running around, you're being a Jedi. It's great. It's awesome. But these awesome moments were interrupted by just annoying mechanics. Because the biggest thing for me was I felt that the controls were not nearly as tight, I think that's the word I'm going to be using, as they should have been. It's very difficult to describe. If you've played this game, I think you'll understand what I'm saying by this. The controls felt floaty and loose, which is the opposite of what I wanted in a game of this style. I want quick, responsive movement, and Cal is just slow, which... But before you say, oh, that's how they designed, I'll mention that in a couple minutes. But one of the most annoying elements was by far the dodging to me. Because when I dodge, I'm expecting to not get hit. But I got hit all the time in every single encounter. I see the red indicator. I know, oh, I can't parry. I need to dodge. But I still get hit. I don't know if it's I just suck, or what I'm going to blame it on is there's way fewer invincibility frames than I expected or would have wanted in a game of this style. And just so you're aware, I'm playing it on master difficulty, so I'm not playing it on like the super hard difficulty, but it's not like I'm just playing it on Jedi Knight and I suck, okay? I'm putting some effort into it. But the big thing was, I was expecting a challenge playing it on hard. But even after I finished the game, I didn't feel confident with the combat. And a large number of enemies and variety of attacks is one thing, but I just never felt comfortable with how Cal controlled. And the big thing for me is there's a difference between difficulty in a game's mechanics and difficulty with the game's controls. With Fallen Order, I felt there was just much more of the latter than there should have been. There's certain games, and this one was one of them, that are designed to be challenging and designed to be difficult. But I don't think the controls should be part of that difficulty in a game like this. You know, it's just frustrating. It just hampered my experience. But one of the reasons I probably never got super comfortable with the combat was just that half of the game is platforming and puzzles. Like, I'm sorry, there's nothing satisfying about climbing up vines for an hour, and if I wanted puzzles, I would have reviewed, like, Star Wars Professor Layton's experience. Just, it got annoying at times, which was very disappointing, because, as I mentioned, I had the most fun during these combat sections, hitting combos, stringing powers together, and those were a blast. And then I'd be stuck going through, all right, I gotta go climb these vines, and it hampered the flow from time to time. You know, backtracking and running through huge levels and trying to navigate the map, which was kind of a pain. But the all this rant for the last couple minutes is to say, just by tweaking the controls a little bit, I think would have had a huge impact on gameplay, just by tightening up how Cal controlled. But moving on from the gameplay, I know I've been just complaining, but you know, we're getting somewhere with this. But moving on from the gameplay, the sound design, it's just classic Star Wars. I mean, that's not a bad thing. The whole tone of the soundtrack worked really well. Sound effects were great. The lightsaber hum, I gotta give them credit. You know, I said the lightsaber felt really good. It sounds phenomenal. They knocked it out of the park on the lightsaber. I'm very, very happy, because if that wasn't perfect, the game would be unplayable. You know, if you're listening to just a dinky little lightsaber. But the story, on the other hand, was much more like the gameplay, in that I had a really mixed opinion about it, because it was really difficult for me to get invested in Cal's story for the first part of the game. But once I finally, you know, got on board, and I'm like, all right, this is great. I'm feeling it. I'm invested in this character. I was basically finishing the game. You know, it just took too long for me to get going. And then, more importantly, I just thought a fair bit of the game was just boring. I know that's harsh, but it ramped up over time, and I'll give him credit for that. But man, some of these sections were just rough to play through. But with all that being said, I know I've been complaining more than complimenting it. It's not a bad game. It's just these few elements of frustration with the combat, the lack of it, coupled with the story that left a little bit to desire, left a little bit to be desired. Excuse me. Just made it. It brought my experience down. You know, I am nitpicking here, but I can see why people enjoyed this game. You know, because there were moments, slices of this game where it was one of the, you know, games of the year, just an awesome experience. But just for me, it was just pulled down by these annoyances that just kept nagging at me, because they would be brought up every, you know, 30 minutes that I'd be playing. Oh, here's this crap again. And it was just frustrating, because I know, in my opinion, and obviously a lot of people love this game, and as I said, I can see why, just with a little tweaking with the controls, maybe clean up some of the pacing with a lot of the traversal and puzzles and just platforming. And man, it could have been, to me at least, a heck of a lot better. But as I said, you know, it wasn't a bad experience. I'm not mad or disappointed that I played it. I'm split between a B and a B minus. You know, it's really hard for me to pick. I'm probably going to give it a B, because I did. I enjoyed it. You know, there were times, a lot of times, I would get frustrated with the game due to the controls or the story beats, but I can see why people enjoyed it. It's a solid game, but please, Respawn, if you're listening to this, why am I getting frame drops on the Series X? I know this thing can run the game. I should not be experiencing frame drops. That is inexcusable. But with all that being said, I'd recommend the game for the right price. You know, you have to know what you're getting into. You will die playing the game. I died all the time. Because it's clear this is a Souls-inspired game. And over time, when you get better with the mechanics, better with the lightsaber combat, you will get a heck of a lot better. And those early encounters that would, take off half your health, you can breeze through. I was lucky enough to be able to play this game through Game Pass, which was awesome. If you have Game Pass, definitely check this game out. I mean, heck, you're already paying for Game Pass, might as well play it. But I think $20 for a pre-owned copy or on a sale, that's worth it. It's not like you're paying $60. Just $20. Game might click with you. You'll get quite a few hours of fun out of it. And as I said, at the core, there's a really solid Star Wars story that gets better over time. And the characters there, I'm not mad they're in canon. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I was a huge Star Wars fan of what's now known as Legends, the old EU. I can go on a whole rant about the new canon. But I don't mind these characters and some of the, the planets and elements being in the new canon. They did some cool stuff with it. So thank you, Respawn, for not ruining canon. But now I'd like to talk about some specific story elements, just as I was playing through. So I'll recommend leaving now. If you haven't played Fallen Order, just go give it a shot. And thank you so much for listening if you're heading out. Alright, I was trying to come up with, what elements I would talk about. And then I realized there's no side missions, so there's not really stuff I can talk about there. There's a story that I can obviously talk about. And then there's, specific skill trees. And I have no desire to sit through and spell out what my skill tree is. If you've played this game to the end, you'll unlock pretty much the whole skill tree. You'll know what's great. You know what isn't. I don't really need to get in that. I'm just going to talk about the story. And the big thing that jumped out to me after, getting through about the first half of the game was that I wish the prologue on Braca was longer. We never got to see his relationship with his friend Prauf, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then, more importantly, the little bit of Cal and Braca is with his friend. So, I never felt that Cal was alone and depressed for years. He had a friend there. There's always these elements of, he's been on the run. And yes, he obviously has. He's been laying low. But the first time we see Cal is he has a friend to talk to, which really, when you're trying to nail, really bring home a fact that someone's alone, introducing them with a friend is not the perfect way to do that. But the intro was, very interesting. Shows you the second sister, gets the energy pumping with the whole train scene. Solid, solid intro. But once you get to Bogano and Zepho, to me, they were just boring. I will note, I actually tried this game a year ago, but I didn't realize the whole point of this game, or half the point of this game, was to revisit areas. So I tried fighting the big old frog boss immediately when I got to Bogano. And I just got rinsed over and over and over. So as soon as I beat the thing, I stopped playing because I was just so frustrated. And I never picked it back up. Which was, that was a mess. But now that I actually know the mechanics of the game, I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight this dude right now. I'm going to deal with him later. But, get through Bogano, get through Zepho. Once we get to Kashyyyk, I was having fun. I was having a blast. Super cool intro. Get to climb on the walker. Having Saul Guerrero there, it makes sense. He's a freedom fighter. He'd be doing guerrilla warfare and stuff like that. And it just shows us yet again that Rogue One is the best Disney Star Wars movie. And it's not even close. At least there's one good movie that Disney put out. But after you go back to Zepho, you fight the second sister. I was just really annoyed by Cal. Finding out Seer was lying was a nice little twist, but Cal was way too chill about it. He wasn't like, all right, you got to tell me the truth. he was just like, oh, okay, well, we'll deal with it later. Like, that would be, gnawing at people for the rest of this journey. I was expecting for Cal to push a lot harder to get some info, which, but that's, hey, the interpretations of the writers, who am I to judge? Even though I say who am I to judge when I've literally been judging the whole game. But moving on, I was not expecting the little sidetrack that was the bounty hunters. It made me want some more, side missions that involved more of these unique characters, because it was super cool. It makes sense that, oh, this dude's on the run for his gambling problems. They're going to track him down. It's not like people can magically escape their whole lives. But after we get out of the prison, climb the tree, beat the ninth. About to say the Night Sister. We're going to get to the Night Sisters in a second. The ninth sister. Then we get to Dathomir. That planet would never end. Every time I thought I was finally done, Cal would end up sliding down to a different level of the mission, and I'd have more to go through. Oh my goodness, the lower part of that map is absolutely enormous. It took forever. Oh, it was a big one. But once we get to the end, we get to see Order 66 yet again. There's so many different viewpoints and interpretations in different novels, movies, shows. And yet again, it was an emotional moment. I don't think there's a boring rendition of Order 66. Every time I see it or read it, it still gets me. It works every time, and it's just a great emotional moment. Like, made me feel bad for little Cal, the poor kid. And then around this point, I did start to get more into the game, and invested in the characters and story. But I knew there wasn't much left, just due to how many hours I'd already played. But when I fixed the lightsaber, you go over to Ilum, you fix the lightsaber. One of the bugs that I mentioned earlier got awful. It was an audio sync bug where I'd see the subtitles, I'd see the character's mouth move, and then the audio wouldn't kick in until about 10 seconds later. Like, I do not know how everything synced up that bad. Like, that was very poor QA right there. Poor QC, probably not QA, quality assurance. But Ilum was also noteworthy because, and if you've played this game, I think you'll have a similar opinion, that there was an absolutely enormous difficulty spike after you fix your lightsaber. I could tell the game, very slowly ramping up the complexity of encounters instead of it just being, stormtroopers firing blasters. Oh, let's mix in some melee stormtroopers. They would slowly do that over time. But after you fix your lightsaber, they say screw it, turn the knob up to 11 and go, all right, purge troopers, let's throw 3 of them at it. Then the 2 stormtroopers on the side, dump in 5 more robot. Like, they were just throwing stuff at me. And I was not expecting that. And then the once you fix your lightsaber, the rest of the game is just a sprint to the finish. Go back to Dathomir, beat up Malicos. The Night Sister decides she's going to join us. I thought that made absolutely 0 sense. It made no sense. Oh, this dude came to my planet, killed a bunch of my Night Brothers, okay? Said, hey, the Jedi actually weren't evil. Okay, fine. But then she's just going to go off with them and leave her play. That if she was a character that was introduced in the first couple missions, and you had like a whole Dathomir mission in the beginning of the game, like before you went to Zepho, then you could develop the character a bit more. But I just thought that was a bit rushed. And then blah blah blah, blow it at the Bogano Vault. Before you know it, you're on the last mission. And the big thing when I was playing through the last mission is I was just sad that there wasn't more Empire content. I thought that final mission, it was awesome. like a side quest where you'd have to board a Star Destroyer. That would have been sick. I mean, the more Empire content, the better. Fallen Order 2, have us raid some Star Destroyers, please. But the final mission, it was made by the ending. And I'm not talking about when they go, oh, let's just destroy this thing that we worked for. That's a whole nother discussion. But man, right after you beat Trilla, you hear those doors open, you hear the footsteps, you hear the breathing. It just works. Now, I knew just because of all the ads and people talking about it that Vader was in this game, but I had no idea like when he was going to show up. And man, when that man walked in, and as it should be, you don't have a, Cal's going to heroically fight him, defeat him, and then, some plot armor will save Vader, or he'll go up and he'll have a strong, even clash with Vader and escape to his ship. Oh no, you get the absolute crap beaten out of you. And then the final part of the final mission is just running in panic as he's just throwing crap at you, destroying the environment. Whew, just annihilating everything. That right there is the real Vader. And I do wish there was more of him, but I will admit, saving him for the ending was absolutely awesome. That man dropping down was sick. But that is all I have for you today. You've been listening to Remap, the gaming podcast. My name is Jared, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.